The next item on our agenda is the facilities report from Dennis Kozrock. Dennis, you want to step up?
Dennis is our Aramark Buildings and Grounds Manager. Dennis, Tim McGinnis, and I, the interim CFO, meet regularly on a weekly basis, as well as Dennis does participate in the Facilities Advisory Council, which we've had only one meeting so far under my tenure. What I've asked Dennis to do is provide somewhat of a summary, at least 2 times a year, of where we're at as a building and grounds and with facilities. He provided a document for you in here, and I wanted him just to highlight some of the key points and then be available for questions for you.
Dennis?
Well, good evening. I did compile a rather lengthy document that you have. As Dr. Skinkus mentioned, I think 2 areas of greatest concern to me and of all of us are some of the ongoing difficulties yet we're having mechanically in the building, primarily with our boiler system, and then with the pool unit that provides the ventilation to the pool. I am happy to say that we have some great support from 2010 Engineering that spec'd out all the equipment, as well as a white architectural firm. These 2 entities are supporting us tremendously to resolve some of the issues and to get them rectified, and I'm confident that they will. It may seem that the answer to the pool ventilation problem is a simple one. However, it's not in my mind. And I didn't want to take the first offer and the only offer from the manufacturer to rectify the problem, and that was simply to provide us some replacement parts, because they have not sufficiently, in my mind, identified what the problem is. And that's where our support from 2010 Engineering is helping us out with. Fortunately for us, the school district at Naperville is putting in the exact same type of unit for their pool, and 2010 is overseeing that job. So we have a means of comparing the 2 units to see what differences there may be. It's my contention that this may be a latent defect in the materials, and that's what we want to get rectified. The other issue, and I know you're all aware of it, I just wanted to kind of bring it to the forefront of your attention, is the life safety work that needs to be done at the stadium. And there is quite a comprehensive list of items that needs to be done there. And I think that has been compiled by White as well. And again, I wanted to bring that to your attention because I think there's some action, some steps that need to be perhaps started now in order to begin some of this work that probably should happen next year. So rather than go item by item, I wanted to avail myself tonight to answer any questions that you may have on any of these other issues.
Any questions for Dennis?
What's the timeline for some of these, like the swimming pool? I mean, how long is it going to take us to resolve the issue and get it working again?
That one, I can't answer that one. Although we're in frequent communication with 2010 and with White, they are dealing directly with the owner of the company, the owners of the company that are in Canada to resolve the issue. They know the urgency. Fortunately, now that we're past the hot time of the year, we're beyond the 80s and 90s. The problem isn't as dramatic in the pool as it was a couple of weeks ago, but nevertheless, it needs to be addressed as soon as possible, whatever that means. I really can't answer that question, other than I know and I'm confident that they're doing the best trying to get resolution from the manufacturer. The boilers, on the other hand, we expect to see work done shortly before the heating season. So we have some confidence that our boilers are going to function as they should.
But this was an issue when I was on the board, when I was on the facility committee with the valves. Is this the valves corroding and?
No,
Oh.
those are the easy things.
Okay.
Those are the ones that we're taking care of.
All right.
The other ones are much more involved, and of course now after 4 years, and you got to recall that those boilers were one of the first things to put in, and they shared the duty with the other system. We're getting some resistance because of the time lapse. Right now, they are going through the documents to verify that this work should have been done. It was part of the specifications and was perhaps overlooked by the installer.
How are, when we went online with both the air conditioning and the boiler system, you put out a series of emails to ask the teachers in the various parts of the school, is your temperature too high, too low? And then they're supposed to be able to adjust each of their rooms.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go in the first year, in the years, and how did it go in the first few weeks of school for the air conditioning, for the rooms that the students are actually in?
Overall, I think quite well. We had some problems, but the problems weren't related to that. The problems were still, and we're still working with Johnson Control on some of those to synchronize the system with a time schedule and so on and so forth. So there's still some tweaking done by Johnson Control. If there was any problem at all, it was just that the teachers were not accustomed to the different controls that they had in the room. So if we would frequently, more often than not, and initially, we would get calls that my room is too warm, only to come to find out that the stat was turned in a wrong direction.
And then last winter, how was the heat in the classrooms where the students were?
Again-
And what do you expect in the coming months?
Again, it wasn't that we had a failure, and I don't think we're going to have a failure. I don't believe we're going to have a failure. But the four boilers are supposed to work in sync based on demand, and we always had heat. In fact, even on the coldest of days last year, we were able to heat the building with the one boiler. My concern is that if we have a extremely cold winter, and none of them start back up as they should, then, of course, the results are going to be dire. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
What kind of warranty are on these boilers?
That's done.
The issue that seems to be coming up, and we had a meeting with myself, Dennis, Mr. McGinnis, our architect, the construction manager, is that Dennis has history 2 years ago when they were installed and not operating correctly, in emails dated about 2 years,
Oh, yeah, we had a paper trail that went,
to try to show that this has been an ongoing problem, where the installer's trying to say they're out of warranty and this wasn't a problem when they were installed. So Todd's aware of it, the board's attorney. We're trying a couple other things right now, working through McHugh and the architect, and possibly the bond company of the installer. But they were out here this week,
they were out.
and right now they're still not convinced that it's their responsibility. But either way, we need to get this resolved, I would say prior to November at the latest, end of November.
And we will, one way or the other. The only question right now is who's going to be responsible for it and who's going to pay for it. And it's my contention that it is not the district.
How much money we talking about?
I'm sorry?
How much money we talking about?
The last number I had was about $15,000.
And this is the synchronization, so when the one unit goes on and, so, I remember there was an issue before that when the school started up in the morning to go to full heat, that it caused issues that the synchronization didn't work and it shut off because we get too much demand, right?
They would shut off and not restart. It's almost like becoming airbound.
Yeah.
And we have several different opinions as to what's causing that. And what's happening right now is, when I say they, I'm talking about White and McHugh going back to the drawings to verify what the specifications were to be, and see if indeed all that was done. We maintain it was not.
But I thought the strategy we used to get around that was to, instead of starting up all at once, because we're zonal, that we would start up areas to not put the full push onto the boiler. Am I right or wrong?
And that is what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it's once they shut off and they reach a temperature, they're not starting back up, correct?
correct.
The last question I have on here is the report on the water. It says we had a couple of roof drips and a gallon or two of water at the base of the field house. Didn't we replace the roof during the construction?
Yeah.
Is that warranted? I mean, why is a couple of roof trips is a problem still, isn't it?
I guess it really doesn't surprise me a lot. When I was putting that in a good light.
I know that.
Yeah, so
read
just
it
to
when
have
you
a
said you were
couple,
very
just to have a
pleased. I
couple of
caught that.
drips during the monsoon season that we went through,
Except
I think it's great.
If it was a 30-year-old roof, that's great, but if it's one we just bought that has some kind of warranty on it, I don't think that's so good.
Well, we had it addressed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so it'll be repaired, so it won't drip there again? Oh.
Yeah.
And is that true of the gallon or two of water in the field house?
Correct.
So whatever the problem there was addressed, so it won't happen again?
I think that will address it. That will address itself. We did address it last year or year before last year.
We did it with, what was happening was, on the north side of the wall, we went there after a facilities meeting. They were showing water on that north side, and you could see water running in through the wall because of the fact is that it wasn't properly sealed on the outside. Plus, the dirt and everything was letting the water build up there and pooling. So Permaseal, we had Permaseal come in, I think, for $900 or something like that, to be able to reseal that area and stop that water flow coming in through the bricks.
Plus, the outside ground had not settled from the construction, so that seemed to settle. So a combination of things have pretty well taken care of that problem.
But what about the gallon or two the last time? Are we taking care of that problem?
I'm sorry?
The most recent report is a gallon or two of water in the north wall of the field house. Are we addressing that so the next time there will not be a gallon or two of water?
Well, actually, no. I think time will take care of it as the ground settles, because I think what we did with Permaseal was the solution to the big problem.
Were we getting more than a few gallons before?
Oh,
before
yeah.
you did Permaseal?
You were flooding on certain areas going about 20 feet out from the wall.
Yeah, about 30 feet wide, maybe about 20 feet out. So, yeah, I think that's pretty well addressed.
Did you, I'm sorry, but.
And, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
With the new drive, or the new parking lot, is that pitched so it's draining away from the wall?
Toward the street.
It is?
Yes.
You took that into account? Okay.
Mhm.
The leak he was talking about before, when we went out and looked at it, you could literally see the water flowing in. I mean, literally see streams of water flowing in. That's how bad it was then, so,
So it's partial caulk,
yeah.
too, which we addressed.
Any other questions for Dennis?
Yeah, I had a question on the pool ventilation. What about warranty in that area? If you believe it's a faulty component, can't we just have it replaced?
Certainly. The question is at whose expense? So we're holding the manufacturer liable and responsible to replace it.
What is their warranty on that unit?
I can't answer that, but I am told by 2010 that it had expired.
Is that the
This
original
is a stress. This is a stress malfunction in the structure that holds a fan that's this big. It developed cracks in the support that holds the fan. We're trying to find out, and I'm trying to find out what caused that, and how could we be assured that it's not going to happen again?
just seems to me these warranties are a little short. You know, talking the boiler and this, I mean, these structures are designed probably to last, what, 10, 20 years? And the warranties for 1 or 2 or 3? I mean, why is that?
I didn't make the contract.
Well, I think it's frustrating to hear that. That we're worried about these issues, and we basically have a brand-new building that we paid $60 million for. I'm just making that as a comment.
So let me ask you something, Dennis. Going forward, you have 2 big issues out here. The boiler and you have this rooftop ventilation. Is there gonna be a point at some time when we're gonna need to bring the lawyers in? That we're gonna have to bring our lawyer in to force this, or?
Well,
I don't want it to extend out and keep on going out of it.
No, I think you're right, but as Dr. Skinkus mentioned, we're trying various avenues to get it resolved before going there. And certainly, there's a time limit that needs to be applied. We need to keep you apprised of that, and when that time comes, make a decision.
Okay. Any other questions for Dennis? All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
I think one thing we need to do mention to Dennis or to the board is if we do get in a crunch come November, middle or late November, obviously I've already got Todd in the loop on this, but I don't think we want to take a chance of boiler failure while we continue to argue this out and have a pipe burst and have to deal with bigger issues. So that could be a possible expense, and then that we have Todd work back and try to get it refunded from the installer. But we're hoping to get this cleaned up long before that, right, Dennis, you and I?
Correct, and we already have that Plan B ready with our mechanical service company to do the work that's necessary on those boilers, and as you say, then backtrack.
Okay. And everything else has been done by all the other providers except for Mechanical Inc., the rooftop ventilation and all that.
Well, there's Johnson Control, and they're ready to do their part, but before they can and do it correctly, they have, Mechanical Inc. has to do their part.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Matt?
Yeah.
Can we make sure that these get to the committee of the whole so that we don't lose these
Yeah, we'll
three
make sure, and
topics?
that's, I think that and the superintendent facilities, that should be an update until
Absolutely.
it happens.
So
But I
all-
think that we need to make a decision
Yeah.
before it gets cold. And also, the other thing that you need to look at, especially with this boiler thing, is this gonna be parts and pieces that are gonna take 4 or 5 weeks? All of a sudden, we're gonna say we're gonna do it, and then it's 4 or 5 weeks, and I got a school that's not being heated, so we need to look at what the lead time is for parts and everything. All right, thank you very much. All right, next we have Laura. You have a West 40 update that you wanted me to talk about?
Yeah, just very quickly.
Okay.
The West Cook Division, the state of Illinois allows for the voice of the individual school boards. Each school board has 1 vote. I no longer remember the number of school boards because our present governor has encouraged some school boards to consolidate, but there are over 600 school boards in Illinois, and they're broken down into different divisions. Our school board is part of the West Cook Division, and we have 40 school boards. And what that gives us, among our 40 school boards, we send a representative, but all of us can attend those meetings. And we come up with ideas that we have elected one person, that's Joanne Zendel, who's our representative, who's from Berwyn, and they bring our ideas as a collective whole of 40 districts to the state. And then the state brings our ideas to the legislature of the state to pass laws or to argue for or against. Now, we have our III conference coming up, and we'll all be receiving the different resolutions that have come from the different school boards. What we'll see, what I learned the most is that when you're in Chicago, you assume that everybody thinks like we do, or this close to Chicago, but Illinois is a large state, and the school boards in southern Illinois have very different ideas than we do. And so at that III conference, there'll be 400 people representing 400 school districts. And there'll be about 18 different resolutions that have come through the school boards or through these different divisions, and that we'll each have 1 vote on. What the state has done, no matter what size of your district, is every school board gets 1 vote. So you might have a district, a very small district, we're a one school district, but we have an equal vote of a school district that may have 20 schools. And so that gives each school district some kind of voice in how the schools are run in Illinois. Now what we have is our spring dinner. The West Cook Division offers for us 2 dinners, and they bring in a speaker to raise issues. And in this, when I went to the planning meeting, there were 2 issues that we wanted to talk about that we thought would be useful for school boards. Getting a good message out, PR. We had a little bit of that at the last meeting, and they were going to bring somebody in on if you're doing something good in the school, how do you get that out? How do you do news presses? And somebody who has a very successful web page and a communication plan. That is good information for all of us to go and hear how other school boards are doing it. Plus, we get to talk to other school board members from different districts and find out, what are you doing in your district? Another one on the plan was, again, financial. Everybody is struggling with how are you making it work in these financial times. And different schools come up with very innovative ideas. And so there'll be a speaker at one of our meetings also to address that. And then we'll get to sit and talk with other districts that are near in West Cook that are facing similar problems that we are facing. So the dinner meeting, which is our fall meeting, is the 29th. And I know Marianne has sent out the request if any of us are attending. So if any of us can go, I know I'll be going. Anybody else, it's valuable. Plus, for us to talk with, like, the Brookfield School District, you got Gross, and you've got Brook Park and Riverside, because as a community, we're drawing from the same well. And it's nice, when you're at that table to kind of hear how's your school board, reconciling some of these things, some of these stories. And so it's valuable for us. So that's all I have to say, unless anyone has a question.
Any questions for Laura on West 40?